Good morning or good afternoon or good evening. Dave here, and I want to give you a quick tutorial on how I do FPP. I've picked out a little simple pattern here, but it's got some funky angles, and the material that I've chosen to use as a sample is easy to tell front and back. And I think for when you're first starting, it's a good idea to use materials that you can tell front and back. I also have a steel rule. It's basically a skinny steel ruler. I'll show you how I use that. A rotary cutter and some glue, some stick glue. All right, so the first thing I do is J1, that's where I want my first piece. I'm gonna cut out a little piece of fabric that is about that size. And let's see, there we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that face side down, and I'm going to put a little glue back here, and I'm going to stick my fabric to it like that. So now I got it stuck on there. Okay, now that's where I'm going to start. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at piece number 2. I know this is hard to see, but there's number 2. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to put it right on that line, and I'm going to fold that over tightly like that. And then what I like to do at this point is cut the material off with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so now I don't know if you can see it, but right here, that's where our next material is going to be. So what I'm going to do is get my next piece of material, and from now on, they're all going to be good side up. And I'm going to take my piece here and I'm going to line it up so that this spot right here, this J2 piece, there it is completely on this material. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this back, and I'm going to hold these, and I'm going to go stitch that line. Hold on a second. Okay, so I've stitched across that line, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this material, and I'm gonna finger press or iron it. I typically iron it, and there we go. Now what we can do is I'm just gonna rough cut that across there, and there is our first piece. Now the next one that we're gonna do is this one right here, which is J3. So I'm going to take my steel ruler and I'm going to put it on the line that intersects those parts, and I am going to fold this over. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim my materials with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And now this J3 piece, you can see it right here. Plus you want to make sure you get the seam allowance in there. So what I'm going to do is get another piece of material, and I'm going to put it good side up here, And I'm gonna lay this on my material so that this flopped over part is totally on this material. I'm gonna fold this back and go sew it. I'm coming. Okay, so now I stitched across that line. Didn't do a very good job. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip the material back. And normally I would press that with an iron, but we'll finger press it. And then what we can do is cut the material along the pattern like that. And so now we're getting our pieces. Let's do one more. I'm gonna do this J5. Well, actually it says I should do this J4 next. So I'm gonna put my steel rule on that line of intersection. And I'm gonna fold it over. And then I'm gonna trim. And then what I'm gonna do is J4 is this piece here. I'm gonna get a piece of material. Here's one. And I'm gonna put it good side up. And I'm going to arrange this piece so that this flipped over section is all on the material. So in fact, what I'm going to do is make it easier to sew. I'm going to cut that off. Okay, I'm going to go flip this back and I'm going to go sew that line. Okay, so I've stitched that line, and what we can do is flip over the material and everything lines up really nice, and then we can just trim. Along the outsides here. All right, and so far, it's looking pretty good. Let's do this last piece here. So J5 is the last one. I'm gonna take my ruler, and on that intersection line, I'm going to fold it over. And I'm gonna cut it like that. And now, let's see, we need another piece of material. Here's a different one. Good side is always up. And what we want to do is, this piece of paper that we folded over, we want to make sure that this piece of material is over the top of that. So here, what I'm going to do is so what I'm going to do is fold that over. I'm going to line this up, and then I'm just going to make sure that this piece of paper is over this material. I'm going to flip it up and sew it. Okay, so it's stitched. And, oops, what I'm going to do is take this material and fold it back. Here we go. And then now we can trim along the pattern. Okay, and so there's the pattern, and there's how it turned out on the other side. So I hope this is helpful. There's a lot of videos online that show a lot of different ways to think about it, but this particular method works for me, and I hope it's helpful for you. Let me know if you have questions. I'll always do my best to help. Have a great day.